Hello and welcome to the monthly wrap up of April. So I thought overall, April was a pretty good month. I'm going to start with the statistics and then I will talk about all the books that are rated 4 stars and up. I thought I'd bring it down to 4 instead of 4.25. So let's get started. So in the month of April, I read a total of 62 books, but out of those 62, 16 of them were DNFs. So the amount of books that I read in total that I did not DNF was 46 books. I think that's probably just a bit more than usual. And I think that's due to it being the Easter holidays. Had more time off work, more time at home, not having to do the school pickup. So I read more. So let's talk about the books that scored 4 and up for me in April. We have the movie, oh my God. We have the book Breakdown by Kathy Sweeney. And we're going to read out my this is one of those days, guys. Goodreads reviews for these because I want to keep it a bit short and sweet since I've talked about every single one of these books in length in my blogs. So I said, this was well written and very readable. Is the main character unlikable and selfish in her decision to completely start a new life for herself regardless of how it affects others? Yes, but should we be able to choose what kind of life we want to live at any point? Also, yes. So this was a book about a middle-aged mum and wife who decides to get in her car and not come back. She decides to go and be a cabin woman on her own in a small town, living a very simple life without any responsibilities, and doesn't really care that much about how it affected her family that she just sort of abandoned. But I enjoyed it. I do like sort of women unhinged, women who are mothers having mental breakdowns. That's something I've come to enjoy reading. So the average rating on that one was 3.87 and I gave it a 4. So in this case, I liked it more than the population. Next we have A Feather So Black by Lyra Celine. So on Goodreads, this has an average rating of 3.85 and I rated it 4.25. So I like these more as well. So I said this book contains swan girlies, poison ivy, and a feather daddy. Yeah. May also have another generic prince love interest, mean mummy and sadistic sister in it too. Some fae stuff and Celtic creatures all tied together with a quest for a sword. It could have been edited down, especially the repetitive, I love you, but I must do my duty as a prince BS. Like, we get it, no one cares, but I did enjoy it quite a bit. So I did enjoy this one. I did find though some of the scenes that were not in the fae realm a bit repetitive and boring, but overall I thought it was a bit interesting, it was a bit sexy, and I will continue on with the series. And then I read a middle grade book called The Lost Library by Rebecca Steed and Wendy Mass. So this has a rating of 4.14. I didn't rate it because it's a middle grade, but it would be 4 to 4.25 range. And I said that this is a sweet little book that warms my librarian heart. So it's a book about a little boy and some ghost librarians and an orange ginger cat and a mystery surrounding a fire that claimed their lives. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite twisty and turny for a middle grade book, and it was very sweet and wholesome. And that was The Lost Library. And then I read Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. This has a 4.11 rating and I gave it 4.5, so I rated higher. Thick as Thieves' Sisters, Bad Men and Wild Wolves. This was legitimately a good thriller. I wasn't expecting the amount of SA though. Loved every bit about the wolves, except the animal deaths. So this was really well written about some Australian sisters, one who is sort of a scientific biologist and is introducing wolves into Scotland. So this is a very real thing that they were doing in history, where they were introducing wolves as apex predators into areas that were being overrun with herd animals, and that was destroying the ecosystem there. So I did learn some things, which I'm very thankful for. This is a thriller at the end of the day about a woman who has to make a decision about, is she going to protect the wolves no matter the cost? But I did enjoy it. It was very dark and heavy though, be warned. And then I read a middle grade graphic novel called Pilu of the Woods by Maya K. Newen. It has a rating of 4.24. I gave this a 5 star. So it's interesting to see that all the books that I rate highly tend to go against the general rating. I tend to rate higher. And then I guess I say ones that are rated really high, I probably rate lower. I'm a bit of a contrarian in regards to what I like. So I said, I adored this. It's about family, grief, anger, sadness, and love. with some magnolias and mushrooms too. So this was really beautifully illustrated. It was sweet and wholesome, but it has depth. It's a lot about grief and anger and love, like I said. And I just thought it was fantastic. It's just 5 stars. It's just a feeling, guys, that you get. And that's what I got with this one. So highly recommend. It's not just for adults. Obviously, it's also for children. So I'd recommend it too for your kids. And then we have Thunderhead by Miranda Darling. I bought this book completely blind about what it was about. Just the cover was beautiful with the iridescent pearls. I fell in love and I'm quite happy with my purchase. So this has an average rating of 3.75 and I rated it 4 stars. Flowery prose edged in anxiousness. Interesting choices were made. Interesting choices were made grammatically and with formatting. Definitely not a comedy in any way. More about mental health and abusive relationships. Beautiful cover. So that did confuse me when they said it's a dark comedy. No. It's about being in an abusive relationship and making the decision to get out. But I really enjoyed it. It is beautiful and flowery and gorgeous writing. I would read more from this author. Then we have Murder at Spindle Manor by Morgan Stang. This has an average rating of 4.11. And I gave it 4.75. Like The Witcher, but instead you have a gung-slinging, ladylike huntress slaying monsters. What a wild ride. Hella creepy too. And I agree with all of that. It's got a very Sherlock Holmes-ness as well, because you've got a huntress and her sidekick trying to discover the cause of some murders. Are they at the hands of monsters or also humans? So it's a very layered mystery where there are multiple murders and multiple murderers. It's set in this paranormal world, which is really interesting. And I thought it was very well paced and I had no clue what was going on and I liked that. I was just along for the ride. Then we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This was a 5-star for me. Its average rating is 4.5. I really love this woman's series that she's done, and this was no exception. This woman hits me in the feels every goddamn time. It's like Good Luck Chuck, but with emotional depth and mummy issues. So the way it works with Abby Jimenez's book, there's always some sort of trauma involved with the characters and them having to unpack it and process it before they can actually be in a healthy relationship together. And I appreciate that. It's very realistic, but at the same time, there's a good amount of smart. It's not over the top, but there's a good amount, and it just leaves you feeling something. You know, it's romance with depth, and it's contemporary. And this one had Reddit and subreddit jokes interwoven. So I like her cultural references and her sense of humor. So she gets me with that as well. And then we have The Blighted Stars by Megan E. O'Keefe. This has 4.1 as its rating, and I gave it 5 stars. Parasite sci-fi with naughty botanicals, sentient ships, printed bodies, and forbidden love. Tarquin, my cinnamon roll bisexual rock boy, can get it. Naira, who reminds me of the badass Sarah Connor, can also get it. So I feel about this one. This one's definitely got a romance in it. So I would call it a romantic sci-fi. But like I said, it's parasitic, fungi, lichen, whatever it is, infecting worlds, sentient ships, enemies to lovers, greedy, capitalist families that rule the universe. I liked it all. It's a long book and it continues on, but it's a series I am invested in. I've read the second. I'm going to read the third. And then we have The Illustrated Girl by Josephine Angelini. This has 4.28 and I gave it 4.75. So I just got into NetGalley and I just signed up. So I've just started reading ARCs and this was one of those. I said, a modern princess with knife skills, a gallant knight, a wicked AF unicorn who bites, and a bunch of witchy virtues equals a fun, light-hearted take on a quest story. Reminds me of A Spindle Splintered, A Nameless Witch, and The Princess Bride, all of which are some of my favourite books. The beginning exposition was a bit lengthy. It's also a bit meta, but once the plot started moving, the pacing was great. This is also light on the romance, but there is kissing and angst. So it is more of a YA book, I would say, but I had a really fun time. So basically a woman gets sucked into a story and she must get a prince to love her and kiss her. And there are lots of things at play and she's been waiting in her tower and no one has come. So she decides to take the story into her own hands and create her own narrative and write her own fate. And I like that. And then we have Perfectly Wicked, a novel by Lindsay Levis. This has 4.43 and I gave it 4.75. This was also an ARC from NetGalley. Wicked sisters, hot ghost chasers, delicious cider and malevolent ghosts. This is practical magic crossed with supernatural and grim. This was really well done. Great pacing, interesting characters, intriguing plot, and lightly spiced romance. So like I mentioned, if you like any of those shows or movies, you'll probably like this. It had everything I needed, just was missing that 5-star feeling, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was just giving such great autumn vibes as well. And then we have The Fractured Dark by Megan O'Keefe. This is a second in the Devoured World series. It has a rating of 4.25, and I also gave it 4.25. So I didn't write a review on this because it was a second, but I still enjoyed it. The romance, the way it develops is great. It did use the amnesia plot a little bit, but not in a way that was frustrating. So that's normally a trope or mechanism that I really don't enjoy. I can't stand it. But this one, I was like, oh, okay, I don't mind it. It's fine. It works as a tool to move the plot along and to create tension and separation with the romance. So liked it, will continue. And then we have Murder on the Lamplight Express, which is the second in the Lamplight Murder Mystery series by Morgan Stang. This has a rating of 4.32. I gave it a 4.25. So this one I gave it a bit less, and I said follows the same formula as the first, but this one's giving bullet train, creepy puppets, and sapphic flirting. So that is the thing. If you do like that consistency and that formulaic structure, then you will love this series. For me, it's now wearing a bit thin. It's feeling a bit too same, like I'm watching the same show. But obviously different location, different ghosties, and this one was trying to introduce a sapphic flirtation, but I just don't think this is going to be a very heavy romance series. It just isn't feeling that way, but still had a good time. 4.25 is still a good rating, but yeah, it didn't pack as much of a punch as the first obviously did, because that was my first time reading this kind of world and structure. And then I read Morbidly Yours by Ivy Fairbanks. This has a 4.03 rating. I gave it 4.25. So I said it's a super cute romance with an American bubbly artiste and an Irish demisexual mortician. The sex scenes were also great. So yeah, I did get surprised by the details of the sex scenes. I wasn't expecting it, and I liked it. It's super cute, grumpy sunshine, you know, vibes, friends to lovers kind of situation, neighbors to lovers too. And I enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised. Beautiful descriptions of Ireland as well. I will also mention Pretty Boys Are Poisonous by Megan Fox. So this has an average rating of 3.77. I gave it a 5 to increase its average score. And I said, these are poems about reading abusive men to filth, steeped in fairy tale and religious allegory. Are these masterpieces? No. But go off, Queen, can relate. So basically she's just talking about all of the abusive relationships with men that she's had. And yeah, it's relatable. It's speaking to my inner teen, you know, back from the Tumblr days. So I like the nostalgia of that. So those were all of my top reads from the month of April. I'm quite happy with that amount of 4 and up stars. I think that means that I enjoyed a decent amount of books, because really it's 15 books for 4 stars and up. That's fantastic. So yay, let's hope May's just as good. Like I said, reading is still fun no matter what, but it's just that extra bit special when you get books that give you that 4+ feeling, you know? Until next time, stay wild, Star Child.